Hello YouTube, this is Frugal and this is a slightly different format intro than normal. I occasionally get allowed out of the house, and recently Virtualfly, the company that make Yoko the Yoke, Rudder the Rudder Pedals and Virtualfly TQ6, two of which I've reviewed on this channel, the Rudder Pedals review is coming soon, should be this week, they reached out and invited myself and Jeff Faviano, many hundreds of thousands of you subscribe to his channel, on YouTube, invited us both out to Lutz, just north of Tampa, to Jetline Systems, who are Virtualfly's US or North American distributor, because they wanted us to take a look at their new Airliner RS Panel. Now, they make these panels which they ship out to flight schools, and the Airliner RS is a particularly unique one in that it's a complete touchscreen glass cockpit thing, and it can be configured to do anything from a Boeing 737 to a simple little Cessna 172 or 152. It's kind of cool. Now, the reason for this slightly weird intro is I actually don't like doing these. I don't like doing anything live on camera. I record sims on the computer. I don't like having a camera pointed at me, and as a result I don't really know what I'm doing. So the sound when I record live tends to be kind of screwed up. The colors are screwed up. I don't know which lens to use, which camera to use. It's just a nightmare. So as a result I went out to Jetline. I took 2 cameras with me, took 3 microphones, and just failed. really failed. So the reason for this intro is to kind of explain away what you're about to see. The first couple of clips you're going to see with sound on them, the microphone just picked up a ton of background noise. It was the wrong mic to use. It just didn't work very well at all. So I apologize for the sound quality on the first bit. On the second bit, well, there isn't actually a second bit because I recorded a full set of impressions, thoughts on the panel after I was done, and the microphone then just completely failed. So all I have on the video is this. No sound, nothing. So I decided I would have to shoot an intro to explain my inept camera abilities and recording abilities, and then I would also record an outro or a summary. So I'm going to do that straight after this. But for now, cue the usual Frugal Sim intro. Please excuse the bad sound. Hello YouTube, this is Frugal. I am in Tampa, kinda. I'm north. Lutz? What's the name of this place?
Lutz.
Lutz.
That's the way it's pronounced.
Lutz. There you go. Mispronouncing even this place, as well as all the foreign places in the news show. I am here at Jetline Systems with Greg, the president and founder of Jetline Systems, and Jetline are the US's distributor, main distributor. Is that right?
Yes.
For Virtualfly stuff.
That's correct.
So you've seen on the channel I've reviewed Yoko the Yoke, I've reviewed the TQ6, there's a review coming of Rudder the Rudder Pedals, probably the best named product ever in flight sim. And today we're actually looking at this. What is this?
This is the Solo RS panel, the Airliner RS panel for Virtualfly. So the cool thing about this is you can select, it's a touchscreen interface here, and you can select whatever airplane you want, from a 172, 182, retractable gear, fixed, Boeing 737, 800 series. Pretty much you can fly anything you want on there.
That's pretty crazy. And you showed me earlier, I'll put some other footage in here so you can see this up close, but you just press a button here and it brings up a menu and you can start clicking on all sorts of stuff here to reconfigure this panel. Now there's 2 versions of this. You have the more expensive one here, which I think is about 6,000 euros. Not cheap. This is not a hobbyist thing. This is more for the dedicated, I really want to learn to fly for real kind of person. But this is the more expensive one, which has a full set of radio and avionics on the right-hand side. The cheaper one, what does that one do?
Well, it's pretty much the same functionality, except having the hard radio switches over there. It will be controlled on a panel here that is touch interface.
Right within the screen.
Yes, correct.
So how is this driven? I mean, there's a pretty crystal clear view here. And to be honest, it doesn't look a lot like Prepared. We're running Prepared in the sim, but this isn't. What is this?
Well, this is Virtual Fly's in-house software. So there's a computer attached to this panel. It is its own computer system, this whole thing. And then you run a cable to your visual computer, whether running FSX or P3D, and then you run a module on the P3D computer, so they connect to this, and then it just talks back and forth with the visual computer.
So with this taking over a lot of the processing of the dials and the instruments, does that mean that the sim's actually going to run faster?
Well, yeah, the sim will run basically how, if you, to do a test, you just run your airplane without a virtual cockpit.
Right.
That's how it's going to
look.
Virtual Fly.
So this other software, the Virtual Fly software that's driving this panel, doesn't put any additional load on the sim at all?
No, it's just talking back and forth. So it's just giving data, airspeed, attitude, pitch, roll, all that good stuff, back and forth between this computer and that one, which is very, very small amount of information. Really.
Okay. Now, looking at all the buttons and the switches here, they're very much configured towards a GA aircraft right now. So beacon, landing, taxi, nav, all of this stuff here looks like a GA aircraft. But you've got these that come with it.
Right.
What are these things?
So these change the entire switchology. So
switchology.
So this is 737, so the Boeing 737. Once we put this on here and we select that panel, all right, I get it on there. So once we select the Boeing 737 panel, we do that. Now it's going to go ahead and change the configuration, but it also changes what these switches do. So this isn't a beacon light anymore, it's taxi lights.
Right.
So that's what's nice, is the entire situation changes here.
Okay.
As we select aircraft, all the buttons and switches change their functionality too, and then you just change them with these cool little overlays. Yeah, they're just little overlays that change what that function is going to be. It changes it from GA to airline or turboprop. Right, so you get basically the switchology is just your basic piston GA, and then you have turboprop because of all the things associated, the engine differences, and then you have airline, which is more of the mostly avionics exchange, right, with the FMC and all that. Okay,
cool. Now, this panel obviously has a big cutout for Yoko the Yoke. I think it's reasonable to assume at this price level that Virtual Fly are going to want you to put their own yoke inside it. Could you fit other stuff inside here though? Can you get this with different size cutouts, or is it one size?
The cutout is the same, but I believe, and I have to double check this, I think it will work with the SciTech yoke.
Okay.
Stage 1 is this, stage 2 is the yoke, I guess, if you're SciTech, right? So you can grow into it a little bit, you don't have to shell it all out at one time.
This is pretty cool. Are there any specific PC requirements to run this?
The panel itself, no, because it's independent of the simulator program.
Right.
So your simulator is going to be controlled as your PC. It will run the same as it has always run. It doesn't really interfere with it as far as performance. So there's no requirements other than if you want better performance in the simulator program, then you'll have to probably upgrade your hardware.
Which you can help them with.
Yeah,
because what Jetline do is they build custom flight sim PCs. We'll talk about that separately. Very cool. Okay, I'm going to go flying, and I'll put some other footage of flying in here and follow up at the end of it. So as promised, my final thoughts. It was an awesome day out and an awesome experience. Obviously, at the price point that this panel is at, it's not for the home hobbyist unless you are exceedingly independently wealthy. It's really meant for the flight schools, and it's a pretty neat idea because with that other panel, I think it's just called the Solo panel, that's really focused on GA. It's a set of analog dials and steam-powered gauges and stuff like you'd see in a small Cessna. With this Airliner RS panel, though, it's completely configurable. The click of a switch, they can switch the aircraft being simulated on that panel from a GA aircraft to a twin or a turboprop or even a jet like a 737, which is outstanding. It took a little bit of getting used to actually flying it, looking over the top of a physical panel at the screen, but once you get used to it, it was kind of cool because you find yourself leaning forward and looking over the top of that panel as you would in a real aircraft to get a better view of what's coming up, where you're landing, what's going on in the outside world and all that kind of stuff. The fact that it's powered by its own independent independent computer is also amazing, because all the updates, unlike in a sim, if you go and get a really high-end, say a PMDG aircraft or something like that, you'll see that there are options in there for how many frames per second those dials and gauges and stuff in the cockpit update. That's not the case with this Virtual Fly Airliner RS panel. Everything is silky, silky, silky smooth. It's crazy cool. And as I said in the interview just then with Greg, the fact that your sim is not drawing a virtual cockpit, it's just drawing the outside world, and all those gauges and displays are being handled by an independent computer, does actually relieve some of the load on the simming computer, letting you have, in some ways, much higher fidelity graphics outside the aircraft than normal, and certainly a really nice frame rate. Overall, really, really cool, really, really interesting. I don't know what else to say. I can't really recommend you go buy it because of the price. It is very, very expensive and very high end. However, if you are a school looking for a panel to attach to something like Prepared or FSX, then go look at Virtual Fly. Their website is linked in the show notes below. I do love Virtual Fly's products. That's all I fly with when I'm doing Prepared and X-Plane now, and their panels are up to the usual high quality of everything else they do. Anyway, apologies for the quality of some aspects of this video. I'll try harder. I'm thinking of doing night school actually on how to shoot video. Until the next time though, my name is Frugal. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all very soon.